Hello and welcome to the Weekly Scroll Podcast brought to you by the Adventure Archive. My name is Ryan.
And I'm Hebert Skeebert.
And today, joining us once again is friend of the show, Kevin Rahman. How are you doing, Kevin?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm good, man.
Woo! It's great. Yeah. One of our earliest interviews, I think. Yeah. Had a couple of projects come out since then for the wonderful miniature game at the end of the world, Forbidden Psalm, and that's one of the ones we're talking about today. Kill Sample Process. And I remember when we did our first interview, this is the one you kind of teased just a little bit, and here we are. I think you might have met your crowdfunding goal for it with a little bit ways to go.
Yeah, I got another 23 days, and we're good. It's always surprising to me that whenever I put it up, I'm like, people gonna back this, and then 20 minutes later, it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, it's all good. Carry on.
But was that how long it took?
It took exactly 30.
That's
it was
really
on the nose, 30 minutes.
Very funny, not shocking at all. I'm pretty sure, the community has spoken, and Forbidden Psalms it hits.
Yeah.
So congratulations, by the way. That's awesome, and I'm super stoked for this project. I'm sure Ryan is too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we haven't even got the last one.
Yeah,
and we're getting this one, and then we'll just be waiting for the next one, and then we got a couple little mini things on Exalted Funeral. So
yeah, that was actually funny. We had a conversation. I actually went to the community and I was like, hey, so because the world's on fire, printing is taking longer, shipping is taking longer. Last War has been done for a while. We're just waiting for the print copies to go to people. Are you cool if I launch another Kickstarter for another thing before you've got your last 4 books? And everyone was like, yeah, it's fine, because we've had the PDFs, the book is coming. And I was like, cool, because I didn't know how people would take that, but thankfully people were like, yeah, you're all good, carry on. But yeah, so Last War was the last one that should be with people in a month or so. The physical books, we're all on track. But then launched Kill Sample Process last Monday on Kickstarter.
Gotcha. I again, like they said, I can't wait. And I think we talked about this previously. I think I was chatting with you a little bit about I got with the Exalted Funeral dropping and all these kind of small little expansions you have, like Rotten Bits and some of those things. I definitely had to snag those, and I had originally gotten the soft covers of all of the original 2 books. I ended up with three copies of the first one, and I don't remember how. I think I sent one to Hunter. I still have an extra one. But then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna have to go back and get the hardcover. So then I did. So I'm waiting to actually do my shelf up and get Last War so I can slot both books in next to both of all the other books coming. So yeah. And one of the things I was just talking about was Rotten Bits and I can't remember the name of the other one.
Forbidden Wilderness.
Forbidden Wilderness. So not only are you working on all of these big projects back to back to back, but I feel like it's almost every other day. It's like, here's an awesome project coming out. And by the way, we have Kevin coming on for another Forbidden Psalm expansion. And it's great. One, again, I've said a couple times, is Rotten Bits is actually the official minis of Merkborg. And you have an expansion for that. So talk a little bit about those, we'll call them, I guess, smaller expansions for Forbidden Psalm.
Yeah, so both of them really, they came from conversations I started having with people who make minis. So when the Morkborg minis went up on Kickstarter, you can go look at their comments. They got a bunch of people saying, will there be stuff for Forbidden Psalm for these, or can we use these in Forbidden Psalm? So I ended up connecting with them, and they were like, hey, are you up for doing some rules? And I was like, yeah, sounds great. So we did. So Rotten Bits it's the rules for the Morkborg miniatures from Westphalia, is I think how you pronounce it. So they're doing these amazing minis based on the concept art from Morkborg. And they've got an artist and then redid them to turn them into minis. And then basically they gave me the art and the assets and were like, hey, write some rules for these. We did. So you can use the minis as mercenaries, and also all the monsters and creatures have rules for Forbidden Psalm, which to be honest is really easy because a lot of them are from the core Morkborg rulebook. So it was like just little tweaks here and there to make them work in the minis game. So that's that one. And then the Forbidden Wilderness is actually based on a line of miniatures called Fearsome Wilderness, which are all American folklore creatures. So all from like the lumberjack kind of community. So not necessarily kind of native people's folklore, but, you know, white people who came over and then got scared of the woods and made up all the stories, basically.
White people folklore, all that time that we've been here for like 200 years versus, you know, everybody else who actually has real history and culture. But yeah, we get it.
Which I was actually kind of comfortable working on that, whereas I don't know if I'd personally be comfortable working on like folklore from native, because as a white dude from Wales, I don't fucking know what these stories are, right? So I would absolutely butcher them and not treat them the way they should be. So I would avoid that, and that's why I was happy to work on these, because they were like, no, these are like, you know, more modern folk creatures. So yeah, that is that one. Again, based on the miniatures line, so all the art is from the original artist who did the art for their miniatures game. And they reached out and like, hey, would you be interested in writing some Forbidden Psalm rules for these? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So that's the 2 mini expansions that just came out. There is another one coming out called Gloomy Day, which is based on Gloom Trench, which is a Last War mini expansion, which is again similar thing, which is another line of miniatures who reached out.
Dude,
like,
you were just killing it, man. You were like the miniature king of like this space. You're really doing it. I'm super impressed, and all of it seems like it's great. Like, I'm fucking super stoked. I'm stoked for you. I'm stoked for all the stuff that's going to come out. Like, I love Theater of the Mind games, but like, I totally get the satisfaction of like, it's like small kill team games. Like, I think that's incredibly fun. And I think we talked about this last time. But yeah, that's so cool. I can't believe you have another one coming out outside of this. Do you ever get tired of like, you know, just always succeeding?
I don't know. It's just super fun, like, to have people approach me and be like, hey, we like what you do it for us. Because the other, you know, going alongside all of this, there is a miniature manufacturer, well, they create STLs for 3D printing,
right?
Called Bestiarium Miniatures, and they make just the most horrific, like, demon-esque minis you can imagine, you know, proper hellscape type stuff.
Very cool.
Fantastic. So every month there's they have a Patreon where you can get the STLs, and they also do like a D&D like 5th edition supplement, but they've started doing a Forbidden Psalm one, which they asked me to write for them. So I've also been doing that. So we're going to do a collected edition at some point, so that if you're not part of their thing, there's another way of getting it. Because at the moment, the only way to get it is through the Patreon. But
so basically, one day Ryan and I are going to have a shelf, and the shelf is only going to just be different fucking Forbidden Psalm offshoots and Forbidden Psalm. Yep. That's cool. Oh, I say.
I mean, awesome. It's already like this. And it's just going to keep going. And that's without the Last War books and this one and everything. It's just going to keep going.
My goal is to fill your shelf up and then do one more that doesn't fit the shelf, just to be annoying, and then I'll stop at that point.
I'll just keep getting. So, you know, I bought 2 more bookshelves. So if this green screen wasn't behind me, it's just an entire wall of bookshelves. So you got to fill up the whole wall. So I'll be waiting. So
I've been at it a year and a half, and you know, halfway to filling a shelf. So not doing too bad.
Hey, I'll take it. As long as everything keeps coming out in print so I can actually hold it in my hands, I'll be happy. So I was very, very excited when I saw that those 2 mini expansions were coming out for Exalted Funerals. Not free RP. It was free RPG day, right?
Yeah,
Is
it was
that
free
what?
RPG. Yeah, it was a summer sale and free RPG. Yeah. Essentially, the goal is to do it in print until Exalted Funeral get bored or they stop selling, I guess.
So I think we have a while. I think we got a little bit to go. So the last project you did, we talked about it right before it came on. PDFs are out, everything's out, and we're just waiting on, you know, the world to stop burning and paper to exist so that we can actually get in print. And you said when is the expectation or the hope that those are actually going to be in hand?
Yeah, we're hoping September.
Okay, cool.
So we put September as the delivery period on the Kickstarter originally because we knew there would be things. And then if we managed to get it early, great. But then we weren't, you know, setting unfair expectations on ourselves. But yeah, like paper shortages have been a problem. You know, getting the cards made, because it's coming with a deck of like reference cards. Getting those made and then shipped out to all the different centers is taking a bit longer. So we're still on track for September. So touch woods, unless there's like something coming that I'm not aware of, it should all be on track. It's all being printed now. So it should then all be with the distribution centers by September to start going out in September. So we're hoping fulfillment September, October, and then everyone should have everything in hand by then. Yeah.
Wonderful. So
That's
then,
awesome.
and then the project we're actually talking about today is Kill Sample Process. So talk to us about this, because again, this was a little teaser that we both kind of freaked out about when you were like, when you gave it to us last time you were on, and now that it's here, kickstarted, instantly funded, instantly backed. Tell us a little bit about Kill Sample Process and like what it is compared in where its place is in the Forgotten Psalm realm, I guess, and what people can get from the Kickstarter and stuff.
Yeah, so it's essentially the Forbidden Psalm version of Cyborg. So the continuation of Morkborg, which I'm mispronouncing. Yeah, so it's the cyberpunk version of Forbidden Psalm. So it's a very similar game. You're playing with 5 minis per side. It's a skirmish game. It is very tongue-in-cheek in terms of its humor and its approach and the kind of design philosophies in the game. But you are playing with a friend. You can play cooperatively, solo, versus. There are hostiles, like NPC monsters that are on the table that you fight and can deal with. You can hack everything in the game. So people's guns you can hack, the ammo in their guns, the hostiles you can hack. So it's a lot of like, cyberpunk tropes of being able to hack things and body modifications that sometimes don't work quite right, and weapons of all sorts of weird and wonderful varieties, a lot taken from various, sci-fi films and genres, the things just completely being stolen from cyberpunk things. Having fun just putting like the word cyber in front of things. And just being like, this is a cyber thing now. And it's like, how is this like cyber? It just is. It's like, when they put like Wi-Fi in a fridge. It's like that. So there's a lot of that going on. One of my favorite ones was in a draft, I misspelled EM as in like electromagnetic round. And I put an O on the end. So there was an emo round. So like an emo round of ammo. That's still in the game.
Yeah, that.
They start listening to emo music and they basically just go cry in a corner for a bit and listen to.
There you go.
Great. So there's a lot of just really silly things as well to keep it a little bit lighthearted and tongue-in-cheek. But yeah, it's set in a kind of industrial future that is late-stage capitalism. Life sucks unless you're the incredibly rich.
So based on the real world. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, completely different.
I was gonna say, we keep reviewing these games at like the end of the world, especially these late stage capitalism games, which, when Cyberpunk originally kind of came out was like, it was there and people thought it was bad, but now we're really living in it. And a lot of these games are really hitting close to home. So you got to have a little bit of humor in it, or it's really just reality. We can just go outside and take pictures and slap in a book and be like, here is awful cyber corporate labor late stage capitalism. Have fun,
Yeah, it's just you add the word cyber in front of it. It's just
and bring emo back, and then we're good to go. There we go. We got it.
So it sounds like you had, by the way, but the way you're talking about it and how we said before we got on camera, because, we talk always before we get on camera and we waste some of our best conversation. It sounds like you had a lot of fun working on this one. It is a little bit more tongue in cheek. And like, Last War is it's fairly dark, So was kind of switching gears into like something in cyberpunk and like future tech and like also like funnier, was that kind of a hard transition from like, you're working on Last War and you're working on the kind of like more fantasy miniature stuff? Like, what was that process like, or was it easy for you?
Yeah, fairly easy, I think. I'm a bit of a butterfly when it comes to like genres of books or films that I like and watch and media I consume. So I think being able to jump between genres didn't feel too jarring. Like I'm definitely enjoying the ability to play with humor more than I felt I could in Last War.
Yeah.
Last War, there is some humor in there, but that's a much darker setting, much darker tone, and some of the things in there kind of played off that more. And I also didn't want to be too reverential, is that the right word? In Last War, given that like the whole point of it is, hey, war sucks and it's pointless and pathetic and we shouldn't do it. And then to have something that was really funny just jump out didn't feel right. So whereas with Cyberpunk, it feels like I can kind of get away with humor a bit more. So definitely enjoying that in the setting and having some kind of, letting my childish mind come up with dumb ideas and just throw them in and see if they work. So a lot. I guess it's been fun to get away from the kind of gloom and doom of Last War, even though I really enjoyed working on that as well.
Do you think with the Cyberpunk setting, it's necessary because it's like it really is so close to home to like really actually lean into the humor? Because in Merkborg, like it's always a little it's always a little gonzo. It's always a little over the top. But like it's so far away mentally. Do you feel like with Cyberpunk, like this kind of dystopian late days capitalism is like reality? Do you need the humor to make it, work?
I think so. It's the have you ever played the role playing game Paranoia?
No.
So that is a game where you are set in like a mega warehouse or like mega office, and you are just like a peon that a computer basically tells you what to do. And it really heavily plays into the humor, because if it didn't, it would feel like you are just a corporate idiot in a corporate kind of job in an office. And it wouldn't be fun. And I think when you play games that are so heavily pulling from reality in their setting, you've got to have the humor there. Otherwise, it can just get depressing and just remind you of just how kind of crap the world can be, which you don't want to be reminded of that when you're throwing dice and playing with toys.
True.
Very true. Very true. I mean, escapism is going to be harder and harder, I think, in some of these settings without that humor and without, adding in those little bits that'll crack you up, because it's the whole kind of like if you don't laugh, you're going to start to cry kind of thing, and that's what we're getting to in the world right now. Without getting too heavy here on the podcast, But yeah, so real quick, and just in case we have some people out there that are unaware of Forbidden Psalm, why don't you give us just like a quick 2-3 lines, or as long as you want, about like what is Forbidden Psalm? Because we know we said it's a mini game, we said it's the skirmish game, and we talked about all these expansions you have for it. But at its core, what can people expect if they don't have the original Forbidden Psalm books and are getting Kill Sample Process, just as far as like the gameplay itself?
Yeah, so it's a miniatures game. So you use miniature 28 millimeter miniatures. You need 5 of them for your guys or gals, and you kind of design them how you want. It's not like a game where you have a set line of miniatures like a Games Workshop game or something like that. You can basically use whatever you want. There are people that have played Forbidden Psalm with Lego figures. There are people that have played it with like civilian families, like little toys like that, and had a whale of a time. I've seen someone recently on our Discord put up pictures of they basically bought a bunch of Pokemon, like little plastic Pokemon toys, and we're using those to play. So you can use any miniatures you want, or you've got your hands on, and you are completing scenarios. So it's very narrative driven. It's probably like a bridge between very heavy miniature games like your Warhammer 40k and those kind of games, and your more role-playing games. So it's very narrative in that sense. You've got these characters who get a floor and a feat that you randomly determine for each of them, and in that randomness you get these wonderful stories being told of like a medic who's scared of blood, or a coward that also wants to charge at the monsters because why not. And then you play across scenarios that you're given missions by different characters, the different books of different characters in Kill Sample Process. The characters are very cyberpunk tropey. So you've got Fence, who will sell you equipment and let you buy stuff. You've got the Doc, who is the person that's going to give you all your cyberplant, your modifications and your design modifications. You've got Doc, who will kind of patch you up. You've got, I'm trying to think, the cook, who sells you narcotics that you can use to enhance your guys and maybe try not overdose. And then you've got the mysterious V, who is a character who basically communicates like randomly through like TV adverts that they hack or like billboards. And as you're walking along, you get like a message of a mission that you can go on. And then you complete these missions and scenarios for them. You can do it cooperatively, so you can play with someone and you're both trying to complete the mission together. Solo, so if you're on your own and you just want to play a game, you can. Or against your friend, or hopefully still your friend at the end of the game, where you actually are competing to complete the mission and fight the hostiles, and you guys can kill each other as well. So yeah, that's the kind of different ways of playing. The book has all the rules, all the scenarios you need, and all the like stats for all the hostiles. So AI controlled kind of NPC type characters with stats and things. And then because it's heavily pulled from Cyborg, and as Forbidden Psalm was heavily pulled from Morkborg, it's fully compatible as well. So it's got elements in it to use it as an RPG supplement, as well as kind of how you can convert things from Cyborg into the game or back out again as well. So if you want to use it as just a supplement for Cyborg, you can.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'd say one of my favorite parts of Forbidden Psalm, just in general, is the fact that it is based on the original one. Was based on Morkborg, but it's different, and it easily plays as an RPG if you want to play it not as a minis game or like a mix of both. So it's kind of like, I mean, not kind of like, but like 5e is the way that they set up the rule set. It's basically a minis game and an RPG on top of it too. This does it actually well, but that's what I love, is that like if I'm with my buddies, you can play the minis game, but if you're playing online or playing in any way, really, like it's a fully fleshed out, made like tabletop role-playing game on top of a miniatures game. And like you said, with all the scenarios, and I think in almost all the expansions there's like the scenarios aren't necessarily just like a combat scenario to play the things. It's a full adventure that you can play, not only with the Forbidden Psalm game, but with the games that is based on Morkborg, and you're talking about Cyborg as well. And if I had to pick one part, I think that would be my favorite, is that it's not just an awesome minis game, it's also a really good tabletop role-playing game, and a mix of both in any way that you want. So it's just, I mean, good fucking job, I guess, is all I got to say for that. So
also shout out, because that was our one D&D dig of the show. It won't be. It might not be the only one, but there's at least always one.
Hyperlinks and digging at 5e. I guess that's my legacy. Is kill sample process gonna be hyperlinked?
Yes. So
all right.
Last War was as well. So. After the show with you, I went back with Last War and made sure it was all hyperlinked. Kill Sound Process will also be hyperlinked.
Put it on the list.
Yeah.
My legacy of Ryan on the weekly scroll is you're welcome out there in podcast land for every hyperlinked PDF you got.
I made sure I finished Last War. I was like, it's a wrap. Oh wait, no, I haven't hyperlinked it. Yeah, fine. Went back and it's a valid point. It's got to be in there. And the other accessibility things. So I've been going back. I've done the first book so far, Forbidden Psalm. There's an easy read version of it where because they're very heavy design, a lot of bright colors, a lot of kind of hard to read text and things. So going back and making easy read versions for people that want them. That's one thing. Last War, there's a free quick start rules set that just went out. You've actually got the cover of it behind you, Hunter.
I do.
So that's the quick start rules. So that's for people who want to try it out before they spend any money. There's a full rule set with a scenario that you can go try, play, see if you like it. Going to be doing the same thing for Kill Sample.
Also, that cover slaps. So I do really like that cover. So.
Yeah. Well, I think originally I did 3 or 4 different colors of that cover. And so using them for different things of hey, here's your quick start version, here's your other version. So that's the thing I'll be going back and doing with Kill Sample Process as well, not just the hyperlinking, but there'll be an easy read version, there'll be a quick start version. So if people want to try it before they buy, they can. Or if people need a more accessible version, that will exist.
Nice. We love accessibility. I mean, the easy read versions, because so many things in this space now are so stylistic that man, if you use an e-reader, you're kind of boned, man. So it's really nice that you like went back and you made something that was like more accessible to people. I think like that's awesome. And we're always about people getting into this space, and that opens space for more people. And that's fucking sick.
Yeah. It was particularly like people with ADHD were reaching out and saying like, hey, I really like it, but I just can't focus on it. Is there something you can do? And I was like, yeah, I can go back and do some work. That's fine.
Yay for executive dysfunction. Woo!
Yeah. Because I pay for an extra e-reader program on Chrome. So I'm like, yeah, perfect.
Yeah. So I'm all about that. Like, as I'm dyslexic myself, so I'm all about like, hey, yeah, let's make it so people can actually enjoy this.
Yeah.
So, well, and Merkborg, which Forbidden Psalm, was originally based on that. I mean, it still is, but still is branched into a lot of different directions too. Recently put out their bare bones version, so you can literally just play the entire game for fucking free and not worry about the art, and it's much more readable and stuff like that. So it's really cool that, those guys, Stockholm Cartel and everything, they're some of the best fucking people out there, and they've created some awesome stuff, and you've created some awesome stuff, and you're some of the best people out there. So it's really cool to see some really big creators in this space have the same kind of like thought for their audience as people that we all like really enjoy and respect, like Johan and the rest of the Stockholm Cartel, as far as accessibility and ease of play and being inviting into the setting, even if it is like a dark, dying world. You're gonna find some friends there. So it's just really cool to see that vibe of the community spread across not just them, but big creators like you. So again, like, kudos for being awesome.
Yeah, and like, it's taken the lead from them guys as well. The community they've created and the approach they've created to the game, it does definitely encourage that kind of approach. Even just from having third-party licensing and allowing people just to do what they want. And people have asked the same about Forbidden Psalm. They're like, oh, can I use it? I'm like, yeah, use whatever you want. I don't care. Like, the only things you can't use is where I don't own the rights. So where I've paid someone for a piece of art, I can't give the permission for you to use their art. But like, if it's my art in the book, use it again. I don't care. Like, do what you want. Like, reuse it, reshape it, make something cool with it. And making things accessible so people can access it and enjoy it, even if the kind of the layout and the stylistic choices can sometimes make things a bit more difficult. So very happy to go back and do that work for people.
Very cool. So backtracking, as we do in this show, forward and back perpetually forever. Your current project, we got some goals. We got some Kickstarter goals. Right now you're sitting at, I got to convert, 12.8 pounds closest. Yeah.
That's
cool.
You're 14 pound off. You're like, that was very well done.
Hell yeah. So I looked earlier and I kind of saved in the back of my head. So it wasn't that good. But the next goal is 2 guest scenarios added to the book. Mm-hmm. Can you hint at what the guest scenarios?
Yeah. So hopefully he won't mind me saying. There is someone called Ash from Grilla Miniature Games. He's a YouTuber who does kind of mini playthroughs. He was really kind of key in putting Forbidden Psalm out there. He did a whole playthrough of the first book on his channel, and he's got a lot of followers, a lot more than me. And he wrote a scenario for the expansion for the original Forbidden Psalm, which was in the footsteps of the Mad Wizard. So he's coming back to write one, or at least he's agreed to. So hopefully he will agree. And then the other guest scenario is actually a friend of mine who's written a guest scenario for every single book. So dragging him in again. Cool. And being like, hey, you write me a scenario. And basically it means I can pay them and get them to write some scenarios so they get some cash. And then on top of that, it isn't in here, we ran a competition with 28 Mag. So I don't know if you know 28 Mag. It's all like art of people doing kit bash minis and things.
Gotcha.
All really cool design kind of philosophy. We did a competition with them where people could submit ideas for scenarios and ideas for monsters, and 2 of those are going in the book as well. So we've got a guest scenario from the community, which is about a billboards that's controlled by an AI that's gone kind of haywire, and if you go too close to it, it just floods your brain with pop-up adverts, and you've got to try and steal the AI from it without getting your brain fried. And then the hostile they added was a window washer bot, because in Cyberpunk there's a lot of windows that need to be washed.
So it's just like real life. You're in such a funny space because you really straddled the space between like TTRPG and like this miniature community, because you're referencing miniature stuff, and like, a lot of the TTRPG stuff I don't get right away, and I'm like, oh yeah, later I'm like, oh yeah, I remember who it is, but Ryan's always like, yeah, totally, I know exactly who it is. And like, it's funny when you're like, yeah, you're talking about like this Kit Bash group, and Ryan and I are both like, yeah, cool, I'm fucking now sick. I appreciate that space. I'm not part of it, but I think it's a fucking cool space to be. Okay, I'd like to ask one more thing. So, endless mode.
Yes. Endless mode. So that is a mode where you take your warband into a kind of mega factory that's controlled by an AI, and you basically plunder until you either die or try and find a way out.
Okay.
There are ways you might escape it with whatever plunder you get, but you also might just die along the way. And you can basically keep going back in, keep leveling up your guys, keep finding new stuff. So it's kind of a way to continue playing once you finish the narrative campaigns. The narrative campaign currently sits at 10 scenarios. We'll go up to 12 if we get the 2 guest ones in there, 13 with the community one. And then the endless mode is just a way to keep playing if you want to keep playing the same guys, keep leveling them beyond the narrative campaign. So yeah.
Post-game content. Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah. Cool. That's awesome. I love to see that. I mean, it's a very video gaming thing that you see in video games that I actually do really always enjoy. So it's fun to see it in this setting where it's like, yeah, you're done with the scenario. You want to just keep playing and just fucking get strong and play. Yeah, absolutely. I want to do that. That was fucking sick. So very cool. I'm stoked for that.
It's a mode you can actually go and play like mids campaign if you want, or like even at the start of the campaign. So it's just a like endless dungeon basically that you can go in with your guys and battle through until they escape or die. One of the two.
There we go. Yeah. Just like life.
Exactly.
So last time you were on, you gave us just a little teaser, and now we're here, digging deep into the Kickstarter and going over it. Any little teasers you can get before the Kevin Rahman number 3, or not?
Man, this man's getting too big, man. He's signing NDAs. He's got big stuff cooking up,
Yeah.
Do you mean for like my next projects or for stuff in Kill Some Process?
We'll take either.
All of the above.
Okay. Yeah. So I suppose like next project stuff. The next thing I'm working on, which is probably about halfway finished, is it's had 2 names. So the official name is going to be Legitimate Salvage, but in the community, because I've like referenced it a couple times, it was called Project Mara, and it's basically turning Mothership, the role-playing game, into a miniatures game. So it's.
Did you talk about this last time you were on?
I think I might have.
I think you did, because I was really stoked for it, and I'm remembering that I'm still stoked for it.
Yeah, so that is coming. It's taking longer because it's a new rule set, so I'm playing it to death to make sure like it works and that just like the core bit of it is solid. But the setting is written out pretty much fully. The rules are pretty much written out, so it's now kind of going into its design step where I actually start making it into a thing. And yeah, so that's hopefully coming kind of end of the year. I'm hoping is the kind of time frame in my head. So it'll be like December, January-ish is when I'll probably bring it to light. So there's that I'm working on. There is a kid-friendly version of Forbidden Psalm, which is basically you are like playing as 5 kids. So you still have a warband of 5 kids, but they're playing with like wooden swords and shields, and they're in their like neighborhoods, and they're dealing with like the neighborhood dog or like the neighborhood bully, or like, so very much more toned down in terms of like the monsters. And you don't kill anyone, they just go home, and you guys don't die permanently. It's just their parents say they can't play with you anymore. So it's that kind of approach to it.
Oh, I fucking love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that was from the community being like, hey, I want to play this with my kids, but it's a bit too dark.
Yeah, totally.
And I was like, yeah, let's do something about that. Let's make a more friendly, family-friendly version of this game. So that's a project in the works. And then the final thing I'm kind of just starting, and it's something I'm actually doing with my kids. So my kid is about to turn 14, amazing artist. Like they've got art in all my books. and we're going to do a book together where they do the art, I do the writing, and it's all going to be on Welsh mythological creatures for use in role-playing games. So like, here is a narrative that you can use. Here's like an adventure hook. Here is, yeah. So that is a thing we've got. Going to do it probably next year, just with other things going on. But yeah, that's something we want to do jointly because we both really like Welsh folklore, and Welsh folklore isn't that well known around the world. So we want.
I don't think I know anything about Welsh folklore, so that'll be cool.
Well, there are bits you'll know, but it's bits that the English stole and then like repackaged. So all of like the King Arthur myths and legends, they're all Welsh mythology that the English went, no, that's ours now. And it's like, okay.
Well, didn't they do that with your country too?
Brits, dude.
Yeah, the English did it with a lot of things. Yeah. They're pretty good at it, to be fair. They went around the world and did it in so many different countries, not just Wales. But so it's bringing those folk stories to life and kind of putting some art from my kid on it. Shout out to them if anyone's interested in following them. They're at idrawburbs, BURBS on Instagram. And I mean, like, yeah, they're a better artist than I am, which I'm not jealous about at all.
Sure.
Well, I was gonna say, when you were talking about that kid-friendly stuff, like, tell me if I'm completely wrong or if I'm mixing things in my head though. But doesn't your kid have like some pretty messed up like monsters and stuff in the first Forbidden Psalm? Some like kid. I mean, I feel like kids can like disgusting, brutal stuff. You know, I feel like Forbidden Psalm can be a kid's game for the right kid, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's different kids. Like my kids were like from a young age. Like I've got a video of I think she was probably about 5 at the time, maybe even younger, and she's talking about how you decapitate people, like the right method for decapitating people. And I was like, where did you learn this? And she's like, from shows. I'm like, what are you watching? Like, but yeah, my kids are pretty dark, so I don't think all kids are like that.
They should be.
All the cool ones are.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm not gonna get into my childhood, but yeah. So and I know he just said, and you talked about this before, I'm so excited for Mothership, and especially dropping that. I think we're all kind of waiting for Mothership to 1E to come out towards the end of the year. There's been a lot of content for that coming out, and you've done some amazing stuff with Merkborg and Cyborg, and now we're going on to one of the other like massive. I mean, do you even like, if you're dropping like $1 million Kickstarters, are you still indie? But I guess Mothership still is in relation to everything else. But going from Merkborg and Cyborg to Mothership and being able to like bring this to that is just like, I can't wait. And then again, that's just going to keep adding on to the shelf of things to do. So I told you, got 3 bookshelves now, so I'm expecting a lot of print content. So
there's still plenty in the works, and I think we're looking at like, do we do collected editions of all the like mini ones at some point?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
People will want that, so why not? So there's definitely going to be more stuff coming, and I'm really excited for the Mothership one. It's like a sneak of it, there's a mechanic in it where there's like blips on the board that you're playing on, and until you investigate the blips, you don't know what they are, and they could be a monster, like a hostile, because there are invisible like space vampires in it that until they actually attack someone and drink some of their blood, you can't see them. So you kind of have to bait it out and be like, let it eat that guy's blood.
Yeah, I mean, space vampires. So
there's that as well. There's like a bunch of other cool, like weird mechanics going into it. So again, another fun one to play with. And it's called Legitimate Salvage because you're a salvage crew that have gone on to Mara Station, this like space station that's just been abandoned, and it's finally come up to be classified as legitimate salvage. So now there's like a race to get on there and like get all this equipment off it and all the usable parts, and you're one of those crews that's going on, and then you find out why it was decommissioned. So.
That is like the perfect Mothership setup. I mean, it's fantastic. The name is good too. It's like, it's legitimate salvage,
Yeah, and it's again same thing as what I've done with the previous games. It's going to be a fully playable Mothership RPG book as well. So
and I'm gonna fucking play it. So that's gonna be awesome.
So if you want to do miniatures, you still can.
Kevin, it's been really good to have you back on, man. It's great to see you. It's cool that you're doing so well. I mean, we're big fans, and you're just like so prolific. You're doing great, and we're stoked to see it. And we're going to continue to fucking back your projects, man. So thanks so much for coming on the show.
No, thanks for having me, and thanks for backing my stuff. Like,
yeah, dude, of course, always, seriously. Yeah. So, hey everyone, that is our fantastic episode and interview. Do not forget to go to Kickstarter right now and back Forbidden Psalms. Kill sample process. I'm good at remembering stuff sometimes off the top of my head. Back it at the highest tier because you should. Check out Kevin's future projects. You can also check out his website, which I believe is forbiddenpsalms.com.
That's it.
Fantastic. And if you liked this show, you can always check out our YouTube, youtube.com/The Adventure Archive. Check us out on Instagram at The Weekly Scroll or on Twitter, weekly_scroll, where Ryan posts cool shit all the time. Kevin, thanks again. Ryan, good to see you. And everyone have a good night.
Night, everyone.
Thanks so much. Have a good one.